that shorter stirrup length. Whereas the dressage saddles, and we'll see a wide variety of types of dressage saddles and makes, they've got a longer, more straight up and down saddle flap to accommodate that longer leg. Some will have really big rolls around the front of the rider's leg, so that knee roll or that thigh block.
Also, I'm
Some
getting
have a
ready to come
much
down the
deeper
center line
seat
is
than
the full
others,
25.
just again to
Charlotte
allow for that
Knights.
rider to sit deeply into
Charlotte
that
Lord Right
saddle,
Misty,
wrap
Wisconsin
that
Regiment,
leg around the
developed by Charlotte
horse,
and
and
Misty.
communicate better with
Misty
them.
provided by
Gotcha.
Country
Because there is
Springs.
no talking in dressage. It's not
Yes.
allowed. It's a 2-point penalty. So any cluck, any trot, any ho, any wait, not allowed out there. These
Wow.
riders are solely communicating with their bodies to get these horses to perform.
Yes. Yeah, which is impressive.
Very,
Yeah.
very impressive.
Yeah. So Charlotte Lentz is our next rider in this class. She's aboard Misty, provided by Country Spring Stables. Charlotte rides for Standing Ovation Equestrian Center, so she's in here to earn points for her Standing Ovation team. And the bell is rung, and Charlotte has entered at A. It's a nice straight halt. So as you watch today, you're going to find that the tests are mirrors. So she's going to perform a series of movements tracking to the right here, and then there'll be a movement that changes her direction. And then she'll go and go ahead and do all of the same movements in the other direction. And that gives her an opportunity to feel her horse and to determine, what she needs to do in the other direction to make the movement better based on the information she received while doing them in the first direction. It also gives the judge an opportunity to be able to see the horses, because the pairs of riders and their horse are going to have a stronger side and a weaker side. And so it's possible to have sort of a not really great movement in one direction and have a fantastic movement, same movement in the other direction, simply because the pair are more stable in that direction and they're able to execute that movement. So you'll probably notice as riders are going around the ring, some of our riders are carrying whips and some of them are wearing spurs. So Charlotte is actually not using either. She doesn't have a whip or spurs. Now, at the beginning of the day, each of the coaches receives a horse description. It's also sent out electronically to everybody that's here that signed up. They send out a horse description. The description gives a brief physical description of the horse, as well as tips to be able to ride that horse. And then there is space for the artificial aids. And an artificial aid is anything that a rider uses to ride that is not already part of their body. So our horses typically get ridden with a whip and or spurs. And that information is written down on the horse description. Now, it is disqualification for riding with equipment that is not on the list. So if the list says that you can carry a whip and you decide not to, that's okay. But if the whip does not say that a whip is allowed, but you take one in anyway, that's a safety issue. It's also a lack of respect for the horse and its provider that have determined that that horse should not be having a whip. So in those cases, we remove riders from the classes to ensure that they will not get hurt by using the incorrect equipment, but it is disqualification. So we have things change throughout the day. It's possible that partway through a day, a horse will decide that it's getting a little slow and maybe we can add a whip to it, or maybe the spurs just aren't working, so we take them away. And we write those on a large board that is out in the holding area. So the coaches and the riders have an opportunity to see what those changes are. So if a rider is going to sit on a horse, they can go check the board and they can see that, if there's any changes made to the horse's equipment, they can make sure that they go into that class educated, knowing what they're supposed to be used. So we have a tack change board for each of the rings at our national finals, and we have a fresh board every day so that there is no confusion from day to day which equipment is allowed.
Yep, and good to note that our beginner riders are not allowed to wear spurs
Yeah.
in their class.
That's
So
right. Yeah.
that education of knowing your rules and knowing your rule book, knowing to look for that tack change board every show, knowing that, well, my horse provider said that this horse has to have spurs, but
Mm-hmm.
I know that I'm in class 13. I'm not allowed to wear them. So a lot more goes into educating these riders than just what's
Yes.
happening in the arena at that time.
Mm-hmm.
It's knowing all the ins and outs outside of their rein before they go in as well, and
Yes.
having that preparation.
Yep. And you know, at a conventional horse show, what we often find is that
We have scores now for Kelsey
the
Valentine from
primary
judges
trainer, the trainer and their
66.3.
assistant